Testing.
Will help prepare you for your inevitable yet incredibly special transition to becoming your life. Please sit back, relax, close your eyes.
Testing.
You will journey into the light.
Hello, welcome back. We are going to create a ping system in this episode and maybe some others because it might take us a few to get there. Let me just adjust my camera just a little bit. There we go. Cool. So yeah, we're going to jump into Unreal here. We've set up a new environment to kick off these new streams that I'll be coming back to. We're going to focus on UI UX. That's a project, it's a collection of UI. You'll be able to play this at some point. I'll build it and share it. And it's built on top of a low poly shooter pack framework. So that comes with a bunch of UI, which I might disable because we don't want people to think that we made this UI. We want to start all the UI from scratch. Also notice the music is pretty loud. Just turn that down. Okay, yeah. It's got some features. Do some reloads, do some running. I think you can do a grenade. Yeah. Okay, so today we're going to start with a ping system. Oh, it's got a little escape menu. Yeah, we're going to start with a ping system. Let's go and make sure that we can remove all that HUD as well. We don't want that HUD. So let's go to Window, World Settings. So in a project that I haven't touched before, the first place I'm going to find out where anything is the world settings. I'm going to jump straight in to take a look at what the game mode is and what game modes this game supports. And I'm going to take a look at what sort of classes make up this project. So let's have a look here. We've got the HUD class here. Let's go take a look at that. So we've got this cover widget. That is all that is in here. Cover. Show screen cover. Yeah, well that is not ideal. So let's take a look now through this UI. We've got some widgets that we can see here. We've got cover, fade, grenade, and we've got some other stuff. Is this pinging system referring to the communication ping to announce certain things? Today I'm going to set up the idea of a gameplay ability system driven middle mouse click that puts a ping into the world in a multiplayer environment, and from there we can do things like contextual pings on objects. So we can have a component that will live on objects and we can define what kind of outcome pinging it will provide. And then in future we'll do some radial menu stuff where we can hold down that ping button and take a look at options that are the generic options if we're not hovering a context item, or a contextual wheel of options. But we're just going to start off with like the foundation today for like 45 minutes, just getting back into streaming and starting off with something that's a little simple, which is just getting the trace to work, getting the foundations set up, and hopefully getting at least one thing drawn on screen. So we'll start with just pinging into the world and having an item draw into the world. And in future sessions, what I want to do as well is compare doing that drawing of the widget with like a deep nested hierarchy versus compositing it all down into a material, and taking a look at the difference between the profile for slate and UObjects, things like that, to just get a good idea of what the pros and cons are when we do those kind of optimizations. Now, annoyingly, I cannot find, I think it might be this one. Yeah, we can see. So firstly, what I'm going to do is remove the UIs that's already in the project, because I don't want this UI. So we'll go to the reference viewer for this, and we'll just find out it's instantiated from the player controller. So we can just type in widget inside this blueprint here. We've got the create crosshair, which we can keep. We could just type in interface, and that might give us a better idea here. So we want to look for the set interface widget. So it's this one here, and if it's visible, cool. So I don't want to do this. Add widgets to viewport. Maybe we'll find where this is used. It's a flip-flop. A free look. Yeah, okay, add widgets to viewport. We're not going to do this. Now we can close everything down. Hit play. Now we just have our gun and our crosshair, and that is what we are looking for. Okay, so let's create a folder for the work that we're going to do. We've got this UXF folder here. Let's go in and create a folder. We'll call this FPS, I guess. Okay, and then from here we'll make, I guess, a new folder UI. And in here we'll make a new folder ping. Or maybe we should split this. There's some decisions that we have to make. We've got this FPS, which is where this ping system is going to live. Music is a bit loud and distracting. Oh, let's turn it down. Just a happy, quiet music here. So what we'll do is let's get this microphone a little bit closer. Maybe that will also help. Oh, just tighten this in here. Okay, so my voice should be a lot better now. I might not even need to shout. Okay, so we're in the UXF FPS folder, and we're going to want, I'm going to do this by system. So we'll go ping, get this out actually need this to be out of my face a little bit. Go for the ping system here, and I'll stick the UI in there, and we'll have some blueprints in here. We'll likely have some gameplay ability stuff as well. But to get us started, I think the first thing that we'll need to do is, in this FPS as a whole, we're going to want to create our own subclass of various assets, like the HUD and the player character, because we're going to need to add gameplay ability systems to the character. So let's go back to the world settings here. I'm annoyed that I can't tab this into the right hand side down there, so this just has to float over here. Let's create a child blueprint class of the main game mode, and we'll just call this UXF and drop that into our UXF FPS folder for now. Pop over here, just type in core, move that here, and take a look at what type of character it's spawning for us. So default pawn class is this player here. Create a subclass of this. We'll call this UXF. And we'll throw that into our core folder as well. And from there we can actually hook those together. Just type in UXF. Compile that. Save it. And we'll use this as the mode for this particular level. And to quickly find out if that's working correctly, let's just put a print string in here. Just says hello. Of course we can't see that print string, but it is there in the top left, so we're definitely using our new character. The reason I want that new character is because we need to add a gameplay ability system to it. It doesn't currently have one. So we're going to add the gameplay ability system from a plugin called Gas Companion. And all that does is it exposes the ideas of adding and removing abilities from a system, which means I don't need to do any C++ code. So we'll add the ability system here. It comes with a couple of parameters, and I believe one of them is the default abilities. Just here, granted abilities. So we can immediately add an ability in here. Abilities are really nice. Gameplay ability system, it basically is going to compartmentalize a bunch of our code for this project that we're going to build. And in this case, we're going to create our first gameplay ability, which is for our ping system. So we'll actually rename this folder abilities. Or we could just call it gas, as in gameplay ability system. So that might be better. And we can create a new gameplay ability. This gas companion comes with some, but we're actually just going to create sort of the default type. Blueprint class, come down here, gameplay ability. Gameplay ability here. And you've got some others that are already created for us, but we just, the GSC gameplay ability, it says here, it comes with a bunch of extra stuff. We just need a dead basic one. So gameplay ability underscore ping. And we're going to add that to our character's gameplay ability system. And we're going to need an input action for doing the ping, which means we need some input. So in our FPS, we'll add a new folder for input. And we'll start building our own input mapping context. IMC underscore FPS yuxif. And we'll create an input action for the ping. And we'll plug that into our new mappings. So this would be an additional mapping on top of everything else. And the button to do that for now is just going to be the middle mouse button, and we could change that on console if we wanted to. So we have the middle mouse button here, no modifiers, just does it. One quick way to test that that is working is to just come in here, add an IA ping, and move our print. Yuxif says hi. It's not going to work straight away because we haven't added it to anything. So now I've got a decision to make. How do I want to add this input mapping context to our core files? And typically I'll want to do this through the player controller. So we're going to need to take another look at the game mode and see which type of player controller the low poly shooter framework that we're using has. So player controller class here, PC default no loadout, which means you get a random loadout. So let's actually, this is already an extension of the default. So let's actually just go ahead and duplicate that. And we'll just call this PC actually, wait a second. This is a PC default. And a PC default comes from a PC abstract. And a PC default does nothing in particular. So we're already like double extending. So I might actually just delete that. Let's extend from the lowest that makes sense. And so we'll basically duplicate the default one and just call this UX is fine. And we'll plug that into our core folder. Move that here. And in our core folder now, we just need to update this game mode with our UXIF player controller class. And inside that player controller class, on event, let's do receive, event receive. It's been a while since I've done this. Event receive. So we have on possess, but that's a server side call. Event pawn controlled is another type of event that we could try and use. Event changed. Bind event to unpossessed pawn changed. This will at least allow us to control it. I think actually event begin play in this case is probably fine, because this player controller should be given to us immediately in a networked environment. The main thing here is considering network environments, so making sure that this player controller is locally controlled. Is a local player controller. And then adding a mapping context to the input subsystem. So we get the enhanced input local player subsystem, enhanced subsystem, enhanced input local player subsystem. Add a context, and it will be our IMC UXIF. Okay, so that's in. We're not going to store it as any other way, so we'll just run that. And now, over in our... Did I put that in the wrong class? I may have very well put that in the wrong class. Let's just double check. Player controller. Nope, that's fine. Player character. Here we go. So we have our input mapping context here. Every player model needs their own pinging. Yeah, so the way that the gameplay ability system works is that let's start with Unreal. The way Unreal works is a game mode will begin, a player controller will be created, a user with a keyboard will be given that player controller, and then a pawn will be spawned from the game mode, and the controller will possess that pawn. The player controller will also get given a HUD or create a HUD. It's local to that local player controller and it doesn't exist on the network. The character that was built by the game mode exists on everyone's machine. So we know that there's a player character that exists on everyone's machine that someone controls, or sometimes no one controls it, but that someone can control. And so on that character is going to be a gameplay ability system. And that gameplay ability system can now hold abilities that a player controller can perform through an input action that speaks to the pawn through the gameplay ability system. And so all of that said and done, if we now look at the very last point, is there is an ability that every character has that a player can trigger. The ability is the ping. So when they press that button down, what we're going to be doing right now is making that ability start to perform actions. It's going to start to print strings. It's going to start to allow us to create things on the server or the client, feedback and UI UX that's going to start that ping process off. So yes, every player character has a ping by the virtue that they have the ability to do a ping on their gameplay ability system that's attached to their player character. So the enhanced input ping here, UXIF says hi. This should just happen now, and of course it doesn't. So let's just take one more look at our setup. So we have this LPSP. We go in here. We do have this asset here. I think I know what I've done. I did not add the call to the parent function on the begin play in my child, so I probably broke some initialization. Let's hit play here. Apparently I get to pick a gun. That wasn't super cool. But now when I ping, you can see. Currently it's whilst the button is held down. So let's go and change that. Well, actually, we don't need to change that. The whole point of this input action is that we're not going to code anything inside of our main graph. We want to code it inside the gameplay ability. And so if we go down to our gameplay ability system and we take a look down here, we can see that there's an input action that can trigger this ping. And that is going to be our IA_ping. And if we go and take a look at the gameplay ability, it has all kinds of useful functions. When was it activated? When was it ended? There's a couple of things that you need to do here. So we're going to commit the ability. Is the first thing that we're going to do. I forget the processes that you have to go through for the gameplay ability system, but there's more information about this online. But basically, committing is going to, I think it might say, attempts to commit the ability and spend resources. And so in the class defaults, you can have all these tags that basically start and stop and allow and cancel and deny your capability to do a ping. And so, like, when I add the concept of death as a tag into the game, and when the player dies, I apply that tag, they'll no longer be allowed to ping. That's kind of like the whole crux of the gameplay ability system and why it's really awesome to use. Okay, so we've got this committed ability. So now, let's just print a string. Just say, UX is fine, says hi. And then we'll end the ability. And let's just start putting in some debug logs. So ability, ping ability ended. And we'll put some variables in here, like debug. Ping ability started. So we got the event ability here. It has started, or I should say activated. It hasn't technically started. So let's just get ourselves the debugs that we want moving forward. So activate. Ping ability activated. Ping ability failed to commit. And I believe you have to end the ability here as well. In fact, if we don't do this and we say that this was false, nothing's going to happen, right? So we do need to end the ability. Ping ability failed to commit. And this can, we may as well just use this and just say ping ability committed. And we'll stick our debugs in here as well. Awesome. Let's go try this iteration. So put this ping over here, compile everything, and hit play. Click. And of course, it doesn't work. There are absolutely zero inputs coming from my middle mouse button. So let's go debug it. Activate on action started, recommended, yes. GA ping. Okay. Should be granted. Event granted? No. So immediately we can't do this. This is where the stream ends, everybody. This is it. We can't even activate. Okay. So why isn't that activating? Luckily, we can go and take a look at the gameplay ability companion wiki. Hopefully. No, this is not what I want. I'm just bringing up the gameplay ability companion plugin wiki just to litmus check myself. So here is the stuff. And we shall take a look at abilities. I don't want to create a melee ability. Let's just go quick start guide. Set up the map and mode. Class, game mode base. Game mode shouldn't matter for this. set up a pawn. Doesn't need it. It should not need to be a modular anything. I should just be able to add the gameplay ability system component to the character. Oh, nope, I was wrong. You can set the class to modular player controller. We don't need to create blueprint derived class there. This parent class is mostly needed to be able to respond to handle some events from pawns, specifically for input binding and the new enhanced input integration in version 3. Okay, so what does that say? Player controller class needs to be modular player controller or a child of it. So let's go and check if we can actually do that without breaking this entire system. Because it may very well be the case that the player controller here, this abstract class... Oh no, huh, we're saved. We can reparent the low poly shooter framework to this and it won't break. So we're very lucky there. Now we may or may not be able to press the middle mouse button, which of course we cannot. However, we can go and check the logs again. Let's check this again. Ooh. Now we need to configure our map and mode. I don't think that that is absolutely necessary. We don't need to set up the movement. The movement's already set up. So we do have a GSC modular player controller. That's fine. We don't have a GSC modular character. Let's just double check if that's necessary. Make sure to select modular character as your parent class. Well, let's go find out if we can actually do that. Okay. Player character. BP player character. Comes from character. Awesome. Let's reparent this. Don't crash. That wouldn't be fun. Okay, we're good. We can close these down. Back to our character here. We should have two ability system components now, technically. Yeah, so we've got this one, and we've got the GSC one, and I think this is a GSC ability system. Yeah, it is. So, I can actually come down here and copy our origin abilities that we'd already set up, and then just delete the ability system component that I created. Okay, now let's try. I really want to skip this screen, if I can, so I might try and do that after. Okay, so we're still not getting the pings. Let's have a look. We were definitely getting IA ping. Let's just check that that's still the case. Print. Let's do a hello. Spawn. Click, click, click. Yep, so we still get the hello, so that's good. Let's double check in here. Our abilities should be good there. I wonder if there's any configuration that happens in the class defaults here. One thing we could check is whether we're playing on the net. No, we're not. We're playing standalone, so that should be fine. Back to the documentation. Okie dokie. So. The gas companion ability system component is a child of the ability system component and gives you a whole bunch of things that you can do, which is exactly what we want. Grant abilities, grant attributes, grant effects. Granting attributes, and we don't really care about that. Granting abilities. To activate abilities for a given actor, they must be granted. The granted abilities property lets you specify a list of gameplay abilities for the ability system to spawn. This is a list of gameplay abilities with an optional enhanced input action to bind the activation of the ability to. That is exactly what I'm attempting to do. It might be the case that I need to shut down and restart the editor in order for it to work. See, they're just doing it like this, which I don't want to do. I literally made a project with this gas companion like a week or two ago on stream, and it worked fine. And you can see here where that logic was with the commit ability, and if it doesn't work, end, and otherwise do some stuff. And this is just like a basic jump ability. Yeah, the debug bool is true. Yeah. Down here, yeah. So we just have something fun happening somewhere. This might be... No, this is working because we have added this. But maybe I'm using the wrong enhanced input subsystem. Let's try the world sub. This is experimental apparently. Enhanced input world subsystem. Why would you do this? Per world subsystem that allows you to bind input delegates to actors without an owning player controller. Well, I do have a player controller. Enhanced input subsystem. Yeah, I don't see why this would give me any problems. One thing that I want to quickly get past is why I have to set up my weapon. Yeah, I did not need to set up my weapon when I was using the other type of character. So if I come in here into the game mode and I use the no loadout variant here, I was able to just spawn. Yeah, just immediately spawn. I think it just gives me a random weapon. Oh, no loadout. Yeah, that makes sense. As in the word is no loadout, meaning you don't need to pick a loadout. Not no loadout as in you do not have a loadout. In that case, we have some settings in here. Spawn menu class. Spawn. Okay. Spawn loadout menu. Hey, would you look at that? Tick box there. Loadout. Okay. Oh, you can't do that? No loadout. What's the difference here? It's the player controller. That's the main difference. Here. Here. Loadout. Spawn loadout menu. No thank you. Play. Hey. Cool. Click, click, click. Okay, so we still don't have our gameplay ability system driven. It's right here. It's right here. It has a ping. It comes in. Registration tracking? Count registrations? Input mode filter options. Nope. Wild. Well, I could always fix that myself another time. And so we could just IA ping here. And on started, we could just activate ability. Try activate ability on the ability system component, and the ability to activate, we could just make a spec. Nope, we can't do that. Try activate ability. Try activate ability by class. There we go, and we'll just do ping. So let's actually get to some UI, because I think that debugging that for the next 20 minutes or longer would be rubbish. Click, 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 click. Okay, so that's not working. F9. Click, 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 click. Okay, so I am curious now whether having it in here is making me unable to call that function. Okay, so now this is not working. How interesting. Player character, UX is fine. Default pawn class, player character, UX is fine. There we go. And then it would step over. So let's cut this and double check that that reason I wasn't getting this wasn't because I was using the wrong class the whole time. It doesn't ping. But we can try this method. So we hit this. All we want to do is get to here, which we do. So now we'll step through and end the ability, which is cool. Okie dokie. You can see there it was activated, committed, and then ended. So click, 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 click. We have a basic ping. So now that we have that foundation set up, we can start programming how our ping works within an isolated object that's instantiated whenever we hit that ping button. And in fact, there's a setting for how this is instanced as an ability. So instanced per execution, not really necessary because it's a feature of our character. We can say instanced per actor. So this ability, I'll have an instance of a ping ability and you'll have an instance of a ping ability, rather than creating one every single time that we press that middle mouse button. So we'll do that. Pretty sure I spelled committed wrong. Okay. So now we can script our functionality. And the thing that's nice about that is that when we want to iterate on the ping and how it works, we just come to this one class, we just do it there. So let's just call it execute ping trace. And the way that we can do this is we can get the avatar actor from the info of this ability, which gives us the character. We can get the eyes viewpoint, and then we can do a trace, and we can do by channel in this case. We have to think that when we do a ping and we know that we want to contextually ping small objects that are in the game world. So we probably want to do like a box trace, or at least a capsule. And the problem with that in some cases, we might need to do two traces. Because we want to do one to try and capture anything that is in that direction, so that we just have a little bit of give, if you like, a little bit better user experience. When we perform a ping, we don't want to have to hit it perfectly with a line trace. And then the second, if you don't hit anything, then you do want to put a ping exactly where your crosshair is. So that's when you would do a line trace and be like, let's just make sure it's exact. So because we're not doing the context ping today, let's just start with a line trace by channel, and we'll do it on visibility. And then we just need to determine what the length of the trace is. Now this might be an attribute that you could configure. We're just going to do it as a variable. We'll just say ping range. We'll put that as a float and compile, and we can set that up to, like, let's just go 10,000 units. We want to add a vector to our eyes position that's in the direction of the forward vector of our eyes, and because we have the rotation, we can get the forward vector here, and we can multiply that by our range. And so now we've got a forward facing line, and that's where our ping will end. Let's clean up this graph a little bit. And so that's our ping. We could trace complex, and I think that that would be a good idea, because otherwise you'll be pinging against like sort of collision geometry, which generally won't always follow the shape of something. So complex would be nice. Let's get a debug in here. Debug draw type. We'll set this for now to duration. We do want to ignore ourselves, and we may want to ignore other actors like our equipment. So let's just try something real quick. Cast to PCH. weapons, get. Do we have like an inventory? Get inventory component. We do have get equipped item. Sure. Yeah. We definitely don't want our trace to hit the visibility of our equipped item. So we will promote this to a local variable. Well, let's promote this to an L ignored. And then we'll add this equipped item to our ignored actor list. Looks good to me. And then we'll move our actual trace just out of the way. Wrap this. Trace from eyes. We'll do this here is init ignored actors. Okay. So that's nice and clean. Then we can break off of here. We could branch actually and say, did we hit anything? This is the hit test. We do a trace and then we decide what to do with it. So in this case, we're going to draw a debug point. If we hit something, we're going to draw a debug point at the location where we received a hit. We'll just say it's a 100 unit pink block that has the duration of 5 seconds. And that will be it for now. Event graph. Execute a ping trace. Hit play. There. So we are now at the point where we're going to need to create some quick UI to represent how a default ping is going to look, and in the next episode we'll look at creating a radial wheel where we can decide what type of ping is going to be placed there. So we can close our ability for now because we're going to go into UI land. So next step is the UI. Let's get a little is it task list? List? Windows list. I forget what it's called. Checklist. No? I used to have something that I would bring up on screen and I've actually forgotten what it's called. Apparently it's called a checklist. Checklist. And I don't have it pinned to my desktop. Oh no, I do. I do have it pinned. Yeah. Okay, cool. New list. Call this list FPS UI. And let's get some stuff in here. So, what have we done already? We've set up our core game mode, player controller, character. We've set up gameplay ability system. We have one of those. And we've set up the ping ability, or we'll call this scaffolding. So it's there, you can ping. The scaffolding is done. Now we need to create the ping UI data, and then we need to create the ping UI widget. And then we need to create a ping UI, what do we call this? So we've got the ping UI data and the widget that now you've got the separation of concerns. You've got one concern at least. You've got like the how it looks. We don't actually know yet how we're going to create it, and what we need to make some assumptions here. So we will say things like we want a manager for all pings. We want a way to be able to ask what all the pings are in any given moment and draw them to maybe a panel that manages all of them, so that you can decide like how many of these will I draw? Do I draw them at a certain distance, or if they're related to my team, and those kinds of things. So there needs to be some sort of central manager that's responsible for all those pings. And if I was doing C++, maybe this would be some sort of system or subsystem or something, but in this case we'll do it all in Blueprint. And so it'll be a component. More than likely it'll be probably do it on the HUD because it's HUD related. But our actual component for what holds the ping UI data or the ping information, or whether it's been pinged, sort of the state of it, needs to be replicated. So that would be probably a component on a replicated actor. Or what might be better is that when we do a ping, we could check for a non-replicated component on an actor to ask for information, like what kind of ping should I be? And if there isn't one, then we just use the default ping. But one thing that we want to avoid is saying it's a replicated component, because then you can't add it to any non-replicated actor. So when we actually create our ping, it will create a replicated actor. So that's how we'll do that. I'm just going to put my music back on because I want music. I want music. Let's go with this one. Okay. So we're going to need to create a HUD marker manager. We're going to need to create a HUD marker component. Bitch. Why do we need a HUD marker component? Usually this would be the thing that basically says, I now exist. And so a client receives like begin play and says, I need to register myself with the manager because I'm active. As a component, that means you can place that on any actor you might want. But I think in this case, that doesn't actually make sense. I think a HUD marker should just be an actor. Like it should just exist as a replicated piece of information with a transform, which means it's an actor. So create a HUD marker actor. And so I ask myself now, like, would this code be better in a component? So a designer can choose to put that component on an actor that otherwise exists. And I say, no, because there's a dependency for that other actor to be replicated for this to work. And I could avoid that if I just say the ping system spawns actors, and the actors can be very stateful. The other option is we have no actors and we just have like one single replicated, in this case, actor. Because you can't replicate an object as far as I know, which holds like a list of all registered marker data as components, possibly. So yeah, system design here is a tricky one. Mainly because we want to make sure that as we move forward, we have sort of the best intents in mind. A nice, lightweight, performant, scalable, maintainable system. So bear with me while I enter the Mind Palace and decide on how I want this to be crafted on the spot. We know we have a marker manager and we're saying it's on the HUD. Not all markers need to be replicated. That's one thing to mention. So some markers would just be local. Tutorial markers, for example, is a good example of that. I just want to put a marker over there and I want only you to see it. And as a designer, I might go around a level and want to place a bunch of markers and set it up in a way where they're inactive by default and then activate them through a series of like triggers. So that's a use case to think about. Another thing to think about here is we can step back and sort of have a more bird's eye view and think about how maybe this marker is more generic than just pings. It is essentially a way to position a widget element in world to screen space. So that could apply to things like a chat bubble above a character's head if you really wanted to go more abstract and have a system that supports the concept of a widget exists at a location and has a context, which could be anything. A context could be like the character, or it could be just the actor that it's on, in order to determine like what to display inside the widget. And that's a cool idea because it means I don't need to code 2 or 3 or 4 spatial sort of widget handlers. We'll think about that later. Right now I just want to get into the actual building of the UI. So let's go forward with a basic HUD marker actor. It may not be the best decision that I've made today. In fact, I'm pretty sure in the concepts of entity component systems, it's just not the way to do it. Should I make this stateful data? The issue with doing like stateful data in Blueprint is that we can't do replicated fast arrays, which basically means when there are 20 markers and I need to update this one in the middle of the array, we're going to replicate the whole chunk back to every player. And so in Blueprint, let's go with an actor. It's probably cheaper. Okay, so we're going with a create HUD marker actor. That's fine. Let's move on. So far we're going to create a ping UI data that defines how it looks and how it might behave in certain ways. Well, actually, it's not going to define how it behaves. It's going to be very look driven, very visual driven, and the widget that goes with that. The HUD marker manager and actor, which is the business logic of this. So let's just get started with that. So what's this? Keep on top. Sure. Are you enjoying the app? Yeah. Please take a moment to no. All right. So we have a little checklist. Yeah, we'll leave it up. We'll leave it up here. That's fine. Okay. Create the ping UI data. Let's go. Right. So we're in the ping system and we've got the UI here. Let's go in here and type in data and let's go and make ourselves, in fact, for the ping system, we're going to need some core assets for how this works. So let's go in here first and actually create a data asset. It's going to have to be a primary data asset because you can't extend from data assets. So that's just how that works. We'll call this data underscore ping. And so the data for a ping, in this case, this is just how a ping looks. So that would be things like the widget class. Put that in there. It's a user widget in this case. Soft reference, so we'll load it as we need it. Typically for a ping, we're going to need some form of text to define, you know, it says like capture or like defend or, you know, whatever it might be. Observe. And I would love to put in here image and / or material, but I actually don't know how you do that. So let's go see if we can find out real quick. Common button styles allow you to do this. In fact, I think I have the common button or the common system enabled for this project, so we'll take a look at that in the future. If I go and make a blueprint class and type in button style, common button style here, you'll see that there's a property for normal base here that can take images, and it can also take materials. So knowing what this is, the image to render for the brush, it can be a U texture or a material interface, or an object that implements the Atlas texture interface. So I want to know what this is. I want to know how that works under the hood. So common button styles can take an image that is either a U texture or a material interface. Is that a class I can reference in blueprint in a data asset so that I can apply it to a UI, i.e. give the user the capability to define a texture or material as a single property. Just asking ChatGPT here. Wait for that to get back to us. Okay, so in the meantime, while it does that, I could at least go and create a UI element. User interface, widget blueprint, user widget base class. Call this widget underscore. I like to use the word master. And the concept of this master is that it doesn't have a widget hierarchy. And so if you haven't seen the widget designer before, you've got your palette on the left, you've got your hierarchy down here where you can place things from the palette. And when you're placing things, you've got your details over on the right, and then you can do some cool animations and stuff down here at the bottom by ticking these assets. So we could say we've got a transform here. We'll just move this over to the right. And now you've got a little animated timeline, and this new animation you can use over in the other screen for widgets, which is the graph, and you can play an animation like that, and you can play it on construct is when it gets drawn to the screen, and pre-construct is just after it's being created. And so just to show that, it's we've got this create widget node that comes with Unreal. The moment you call this on a widget, that was a bad idea. It's loading something now. As soon as you call that construction, it's going to trigger what's called the pre-construct and allow you to do a bunch of stuff. Also allows you to create look dev whilst you're in the design view, which is cool. In fact, we have a text block. It's a great way to show that. So we'll do that in a sec. Then when you add this to the viewport, like so, that's when construct gets called. So construct event construct. Yeah. So that's when this gets called. So you've got two different events. This one relates to this. This one relates to this. In the meantime, let's take a look at the pre-construct and just explore that a little bit. In the designer view, when you've got elements in your hierarchy, in this case a text block, you can tell it to be a variable, which allows you to access it in that graph. So we can grab this and set text on it. And we can create a variable here. The in text, for example. And I mean, this is a really rudimentary example, but basically the in text, now I can set that. So set text, you can see it in the top left, is happening at editor time. So that's just something that I wanted to just throw out there. So let's get started making an actual visual style for our pings. I'm going to delete all this example stuff that I just set up. So what I want to do is I just want to draw an image. That is what I'm going to do first and foremost. I'm going to come up here to the top right to pick a size that I want to draw that at. So desired means it's going to show me how this looks if I just straight draw it. So we just have an image. Smallest hierarchy we could have. Just make this visible there. We will actually not do that here because this is the master class. So let's go back a step. When I created this, I called it a master class, and that is the concept of coming into the class settings and saying that this is an abstract class, which means it can't be chosen in a data asset, it can't be spawned or created into the game world. It only exists as some form of code. And the whole reason for that is that we can hold code and variables in this class and then have a child of it. So there's some features that I'm going to add to the ping widget that goes in the screen and that is shared across any ping widget that we'll have, which is information coming from the other assets that we're going to make. So the ping UI data, for example, will be an asset that this will know about. So we can actually create a variable here. So we'll call this ping data. You can see here we've got the data for the ping. It's an object reference. We should know what this is. If this widget is visible, that should be loaded already. So we know that already. And this can be probably exposed on spawn, because as we create, we're only ever going to create a widget when we know we have data. So we're going to loop through the data that we know about that should be on screen, and then we're going to plug that straight into the widget, right? So we'll do that. All right, rock on. So that's that. And so now I can quickly show what I mean by like a master class by creating a new widget blueprint. It's parented to the ping master. And this is just widget ping, and we'll just call this generic. So this is the non-abstract version. And in here we have that image. I copied it to my clipboard and didn't override my clipboard, so that's cool. Image ping. So we have that in here. And what we can do is we can say set text, set brush, probably from a soft texture that comes from our data. And so we'll have a variable in our data that defines how this looks, and we'll do that on pre-construct, and then we'll have that set up. So let's go back to ChatGPT, see if it's done anything. Short answer, there's no texture or material class that you can pick in Blueprint, but you can get exactly the behavior you want by using a slate brush or just a U object and then casting. So ChatGPT's got back to me about this variable type that I wanted to create. So you can add a U texture 2D here, or you'll just go texture 2D. You can add this here as a soft object reference. We'll put the text at the top here. How do I like to lay? There's so many questions that I start to ask as I build out something. Let's just start with the texture one first. So I can say that there is either a texture or a material interface, soft object, right? And when a user creates miscellaneous data asset, data ping, and says like DA underscore ping basic, they come in here, they have all these options. They can pick a texture here, and they can only pick a material here. What GPT is suggesting that I do is say, hey, no, well, not suggesting, but saying is an option is like, we'll just say image, and it's just saying, just allow them to put an object in here. If we go and look at that, that means I can literally pick like an entire other widget which means the context and the scope of like that drop down box is now massive for any designer coming in to create one of these pings. They've got this huge thing to worry about. Another thing I want to touch on as well is like, why don't you use a data table? And the reason is you can't extend a struct, which is what a data table is built from. Data table is great for like short static information that's never going to change size or scope, but a ping is something that you might want to extend in the future. So a data asset, I could come in and I could actually extend from this class and create a higher scope asset from it. Just explaining to GPT that that was a ridiculous idea and I don't want to do it that way. Okay, so moving on. Just going to have a sip of coffee. And then we'll make some happy little pings. So for anyone joining, we started off by setting up this quick line trace from the eyes in a gameplay ability. That means it can happen on the server as well as the player without us doing too much extra lifting. There is a hell of a lot of bangs happening downstairs. I'll be right back. There's a lot of bangs going on in my house right now, and I want to know why. I want to know why. And of course, you know, thanks to me having to jump out for literally 2 seconds, people lost interest and left. So sorry about that. We're back. It's going a little bit slower than I'd like anyway. We've actually been going for an hour already. This could work though. I think this works. Let's go with this idea. Let's pop this open. We've got this data asset here. Let's delete these. Just go in here and say image. We'll just make this a brush. Problem is when we make this a slate brush, like so, I don't think that this image here is a soft reference. It's a hard object reference, which means that, actually, to be fair, that's probably fine. Is that fine? Nah, it's probably not fine. Is it fine? Let's see. So it's a hard object reference, which means that whenever this ping data is loaded, we know what that image is, or the icon or the material. We will have a radial wheel that when we open it, it's going to populate with all our pings that we've chosen. Whenever an actor is in the world, it's going to have ping data associated to it. And that will be loaded because we'll be looking at it. Although a lot of the times we won't be looking at it because it might not be on our team and so on. So a ping data itself existing and forcing the game to load the image or material means that if there are a lot of instances of pings in the world that you may or may not be able to see, you're paying memory cost for having those images, those textures, and those materials loaded if we use this brush. If we just use soft texture or soft material, we can choose to just load them lazily. And so I'm just going to have to accept that this is a texture 2D soft reference or material soft reference. And that is fine. Okay, so let's actually set up a basic ping. So a basic ping, it doesn't really need any text because there's no context of text in here. The widget class is the generic, which of course that's not going to let us do. So let's go change the widget class here to ping master. Soft object, I think that might be wrong. Yeah, so it needs to be soft class here. And now we can use that generic ping. You notice how it's the only option, and that's why I like very explicit setup for this. Okay. And then let's go and pick an actual image. So I have imported a sci-fi pack that comes with textures, and it has a bunch of icons in here. Icon status. These are not ideal. Well, let's just type in icon and see what we have here. Let's do not input. So you can do markup in the search bar to minimize what you're looking at, which is pretty cool. All right. So let's go find something that just looks like a generic ping. Oh, we also don't want props. Not prop. Not weapon. Not weapon. Not grenade. Here we go. No, not ammo. Oh my god. Not ammo. Okay, cool. So these are all the actual icons that we have. Let's see. Yeah, now I want to use a combination of these two and colorize it. Or at least use a material. And so with that in mind, for this use case, let's go with just this objective one, I think, and then we'll just move on using the texture-based method. So now we have this data. So in our ping generic, we can get that data, we can get the texture, and we can plug that in here, and we can plug this here. Happy days. In the designer now, we can see that load, or it should at least load, as long as the ping data is set. Yeah, so you can see that here. So that's pretty cool. Let's just make sure that this is loaded. And we'll convert this into a function here that's just like apply data. Cool. So we have a ping. Very good. Need to get rid of some random blueprints that I've made. So for now, we'll just say, hey, we have a very basic, like the most basic of ping UI widget that we could have. And we have the most basic of ping UI data that we could have. And now we need a HUD marker manager to tie that into the world and actually place it down. We're also going to need create marker panel, I guess, which we'll rename this create marker UI panel. We're going to need some sort of panel to hold this and update the positions. So, okay, so let's close everything down. We've made, it took us a little while, but we've made a ping UI. So we have the UI now. We have our gameplay ability. We have a folder called data, but we don't have data. Put it in core. Okay, fair. Put it in data. There we go. Now in core we'll have a blueprint class, which is an actor component. So the difference between actor components and scene components, if you don't already know, is an actor component does not have a transform and a scene component does. We don't need a scene component because this is just a HUD marker manager, a system that we want to add to our HUD. And so before we get any further, let's make sure that we have an actual HUD. So there's a HUD here. We'll extend from this HUD into UX is fine, and we'll place that into our project. So let's put that in core. Might need to rename this second core, so it's like ping manager, I guess. So in core here, we have a HUD class, and we can add the manager that we just made, the HUD marker manager. So that lives on the HUD. It's going to receive notifications from actors in the world. Keeps just trying to keep it as lean as possible. So that's the manager. Let's create an actor. I keep hesitating when I go to create this actor because I know it's like really you want this to be in C++ and you want to use a fast array and you just want to say this is a data asset, this is the position, or at least an abstract of data that's like and the owner and some various other things. I suppose if you anyway point is we're going with actor, blueprint class actor BP ping. I mean, we could call this a ping manager. That's fine. We don't need to call it a marker manager. Let's just call it the ping manager. Yeah, let's just keep it really lean. It's very ping. It's just ping. Okay, so on the blueprint ping, when it gets spawned into the world, it needs to know and replicate. Well, first it needs to replicate. So it doesn't need to be always relevant. It can be relevant based on distance, and that distance would be defined by how far you can see a ping. But we don't have that information yet. We haven't decided that for the game, so we'll just leave its netcode distance as I think it's 100 meters. We can find out. So if we go to the calculator. In fact, I'll just do it through GPT because it will be quicker. What is this net call distance in meters? It's like square rooted and then so GPT goes, oh, that number there, after I said, what is the net call distance in meters? And this is the net call distance. It goes, okay. So an unreal unit is 1 centimeter and 100 unreal units is 1 meter. 100 centimeters, 1 meter. So that there is 2 kilometers. And I was like, but it's net call distance, it's squared. It's like, you're right. You're right. It's 150 meters. So let's just divide it by 2 and we know that that's 75 meters. Cool. Compile that. Let's have a look. So we've got the net load on client. That's true. It does replicate. It's net dormancy. We'll say it's dormant. And so these dormancy options are quite important for things that you know aren't going to move or update very often. It means that basically an actor can replicate over the network and then be dead cheap on the net relevancy sort of side of things, or sort of like sending packets of data around over the network for a multiplayer game. So keeping this dormant as often as possible, really good. If you were to ever actually change the replicated variable for the data that this actor represents in its position, then you would do it and you would call what's called a net update on this actor, or you would flush the dormancy. So the net update frequency is another thing to consider. It's how frequently, I don't know why it's not showing me the tooltip, but it's basically how frequently to consider updating this actor, this asset for replication. So we're just going to put this at 1. The min update frequency is 1, sure. The net priority is 1, sure, very low. Physics replication mode, it doesn't really matter. Call pre-replication, replication rewind, all these other things, replicate movement. I wish I could just say no. And in fact, so yeah, we don't want decimal places. It becomes more. This is as small as the data can be, so we'll keep it like that. Wow, I've gone through 2. This was supposed to be a 45-minute stream. Just getting back into it, but it's been 3 whole playlists already. Okay, so we've talked about replication here. We're kind of happy about that. We have a variable in here, which is the ping data that this represents. And so in this case, let's go data ping. It's an object reference. If you know about this actor, you should know about its data. It doesn't need to be a soft reference. It's also going to be replicated. And it's going to have a replication condition of initial only. And so I don't know why I'm not getting any tooltips for any of this, but luckily I know what it means. It basically means this replication of this property is only going to replicate 1 time to you. And in my current use case, that is fine because we're not changing the look of a ping in any way. Like we're gonna throw it into the world. It's going to exist as it does, and that's going to be it. Which is why an entity component system would work really well for this. We're just going to do it with actors. We'll just call it a prototype. Okay. So we have that now. What we can do is expose this on spawn, and the ping system, when we ping, we'll tell it what data to use, and in the future we'll control what data to use through the radial wheel. But it will place that actor into the world at the location that you did a ping, and it will set you as the owner, so we know who owns this particular ping, which means we're almost there. In fact, there's other ways of doing this. There's a really quick way of doing this now, like without making a UI panel that listens to like a ping manager and like no ping manager whatsoever. And let's do that. Let's get this ping in the world. So far we have this. We can ping like this. We could really quickly now open up that actor. Let's just call this blueprints. We could open up this ping, add a widget component, and on here we could actually set this to a rep notify, which means that we get an event for it, and when that happens we could get the widget class. Well, we could make a we could at least make an event in the graph. Event begin play. Let's get rid of all these. Custom event load. Load. I'll just call this draw widget. We could async load this asset. We don't want to block load it because it will cause hitches. Set class on set widget. Create widget, please. Okay, create widget. My fingers aren't working. If I cast this to the ping UMG or ping widget underscore master. Firstly, that master is a lightweight abstract class that's really fast to cast to because it's not got any bloat in it. The ping data itself is this ping data. And we've just created that widget. So that's it. Now we can just set that widget on the actor there. So that's that done. And then we can go over to our ping in our game playability system. And we execute the ping trace here. Let's do another function. Create ping actor. And this will take a location. We'll spawn an actor from a class as long as this is the server. This what we need to do, we may as well only run this ability on the server, because this eye point, or wherever the trace has gone, this eye location, yeah, it's like it's shared across all actors. So we never need to put a condition in this like, is this on the server? Because we know it's on the server. We're only running it on the server. So we'll plug that in there. Get this actor here. It's the ping actor. Ping? BP ping, sure, okay. And the ping data, cool. So at the moment, the ping data is static. It's the one single one that we've made, and we can choose how to control that in the future through a radial menu. But we're going to spawn a ping actor, and that should just work. If I was to actually call that function, it would just work. Clean this all up, hit play, bam, bam, bam. Okay, it totally didn't work, but bear with me. Why didn't it work? Let's go, oh right, because I didn't call draw widget. Bam, bam, okay, it still doesn't work, but bear with me. It's because of another reason. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at, this is all still running, so that's good. I mean, I am the server in this case. So we come through, we ignore some actors, we do a visibility trace, and then we create a ping actor, which will spawn a BP ping with ignoring the collisions. Creates a ping data. I think I know the next problem. So in the widget that we made here, we didn't do any other settings. So this widget component just needs some setup. It's going to be screen space. The widget class exists. The draw size is desired. Pivot, middle. Tick mode, disabled. Does not need to tick. Oh, come on. So now it's the case of being like, okay, where does it break? Let's put some breakpoints around. Bam. Okay. So this ping data does exist. We create an actor. It never triggers the on-rep because it started its lifetime with that replicated property. So that is something to be aware of, is you need to, on initialization of the actor, consider that some of its on-rep properties may have already triggered. So here we're going to say draw widget. It's going to fail if it's not valid. And then when it becomes valid through this on-rep ping data, it should work after that. Bam. Create an actor. Bam, bam, bam. Why are you not drawing, buddy? Right. Event graph for the ping here. Draw widget. Let's go in here. So this is the next problem. I accidentally hooked it there. So this comes in. It has the ping data. Right, now we have a ping. Awesome. I can remove the debug draw type, and also we don't really need to debug the lifetime of the ability. We can sort of okay. So we have a pretty simple ping. We could do animations on top of this. We could, and if we were to do that, I would do it through a material. They are just slightly jittering as I breathe in game. They don't have a lifetime. They draw above everything, which I think is probably okay. They don't stick to the edges of the screen. There's a lot of stuff you could do now. So, I mean, let's face it, we're never going to have like enough that we need a marker manager, so I'm going to remove that. But we do have a HUD marker manager with it, and we didn't need a panel, so we saved a lot of time here actually. But there's a bunch of things that I'm going to add to the list, and we'll come back to this another day. So, firstly, ping screen edge logic. We'll think about that. We'll think about, what else could we think about here? Ping lifetime. Cancelling a ping. We can think about that. We could think about, what else could we think about? To activate chat, please enable channels. I would love for chat to be enabled. That would be awesome. Why isn't chat enabled? Question mark. If anyone in chat wants to make some suggestions for what they want to see for a ping system, radio system, and so on, that's what I'm going to be building over the next few sessions. So speak now. Okay, so we've got our basic ping setup. A lot of discussion basically led to it taking way longer. You'll see other videos on this channel where I've done that in like 20 minutes at the end of a video, where I like blitz through it. So we want to be able to cancel a ping. We want to have ping lifetime. We want to have like max pings, probably one, but maybe you can do more than one. And we want to have like ping ownership name, like on hover maybe, like you would look at a ping and it would give you some context, so that could be cool. Let's take a quick look at some console properties while we're here. Stat U objects, U objects, the character mesh, character default update animation, character received just like looking down the list. Character. Crosshair. So unfortunately, because the base of the game costs so much to run for the template that I'm using, I can't see whether my asset is 0.01 ms or less, because I would love for my asset to be 0.1 ms or less, but we at least know it's less than 0.1 ms, so that's good. Let's this isn't a great way to debug this, sadly. Let's try and let's go and quickly fix that problem by creating our own character that is just an extension of the GSC modular character. So got the GSC modular character here, so that'll be good. Character, modular player state character. Game feature plugins don't really care. Okay, so we'll call this the BP underscore character underscore Yuxif. We'll basically come in here, grant an ability. It's going to be the ping. We'll pop in the ping here, jump back to our game mode. I'll just make a basic game mode that, yeah. So we've got the FPS core, and we'll just go back here and we'll just go the core, like it's really core now. What could we do here? So in the UXIF folder, let's just call this foundation. And I'm going to create a new game mode in here, game mode base, GM_foundation. And we're going to move that character that we just made, BP character, UX is fine. And we're going to go into that GM foundation and select that UX is fine base character. And we're going to go to the world settings here, and we're going to pick our what's called foundations, GM foundation, hit play. I don't have any controls, which makes sense. Yeah, it does kind of make sense. I'll do that off screen actually, because it's going to take a little bit of setup. There's going to be a little bit of input handling to get just like the left, right, up, down movement and walking around just set up. And I'm pretty sure that's not interesting to everyone. So I'll handle that off stream. But yeah, so today, looking back through the 6 tasks, we set up our gameplay core based off the low poly shooter framework plugin from the Epic Marketplace, or well, the Fab Marketplace. We set up the gameplay ability system through the gameplay ability companion plugin on the Fab Marketplace. We set up a ping ability scaffold. We set that up, and which included the ping UI widget, some ping UI data, and a ping UI actor. That all come from sort of like a bunch of decoupled systems. And in the future, what we'll do is we'll start to allow ourselves to modify the properties that we set up today. So where we set a particular ping data to come out of a ping, we'll control which type of ping we'll produce. We could do some investigations into animation. I think that was one I wanted to add to the list. So animated ping, or ping feedback, I suppose you could call it. Let's do that. So that will probably be through a material, and that might change how we do the texture we chose to do today. Was just like a very cheap way of doing things, but we might want to just put a material in there that just does something cool when it initializes, and we do it through the material because it would be cheaper than doing it through the actual layout of the widget, which would update the layout. And so yeah, we can look at screen wrapping logic for like an oval or square UI. We can look at the lifetime of those pings, because currently we can just place an absolute ton of them. Let's go back to our UXIF game mode. Just have a look. Bam, 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 bam. Now. But yeah, you can imagine this just bouncing up and doing something interesting. Pap, pap, pap. Pap, pap, pap. Very cool. Awesome. I do wonder how many of these it would take until it becomes a real problem, and I could probably find out really quickly if I come in here and use triggered instead. Then we can really break this, right? Let's go stat slate and stat u objects. So we've got a lot of pings now. We have a lot of pings. And as an object, it's still cheaper on the MS. Oh no, the gameplay ability for the pings there. Oh no, it's gone away. Never mind. The gameplay ability system sort of like ticked up for a second and then went away. But you can see down here we've got 793 hit test grid widgets, right? I can get rid of that right now. We're also ticking a bunch of widgets, which is not great. So let's see if we can fix that. It's a really quick way to test things. This video just keeps on going. Widget here, tick. Component, don't tick. Don't tick on a dedicated server. Actor, don't tick. Don't tick on a dedicated server. What else can we do to this actor to make it cheaper? Never update collision. Can't be damaged. Always spawn, ignore collisions. Rendering. Wait, what's that rendering? Editor billboards go, actor hidden. No. Replication. We did our optimizations on that already. Yeah, okay, so I don't think there's much else we can do in terms of cheapening that. We did disable the tick mode on the geometry there. Tick when off screen. It can't tick, so it won't tick. Okay. One thing we could do is actually replace the default scene root with this widget, and that would actually reduce the hierarchy a little bit. So the other thing we can do is in our widget underscore ping is we can actually tell this to be non-hit testable, and that will remove that hit test grid MS that was popping up after we got about 300 pings or I think we had 728 pings and it was like 1 MS. So well, we don't want that. So let's go and see just one more check. Widget underscore ping in the master here. Yeah, so we don't have a tick in there. We just want to make sure that we don't have a tick in here. And in fact, in the master, if we type in tick, we could go tick frequency never. So that, let's make sure that that applied to the child. Yeah, it did. So now we could jump back in and we could just spray. It really doesn't like having that many calls to try and activate and commit through the ping system. But of course we're not going to let you ping like that. And I think, yeah, if you do another stat command, which is like stat unit graph, and then we get rid of some of our other stats here. I mean, we've definitely reduced the hit test grid, although it is still there, and it is 0.7 ms, and we are capable of doing a lot of things with these widgets that I don't actually like. We can see here the world widget screen layer. Sorry, no, the one above it, tick widgets. It's still ticking. It's still 0.7 ms. So there's more work to do there. We really don't want those to tick. And maybe they're forced to tick because of the fact that they're in this panel. And what we could potentially do is, if we had our own panel, we could manage when to move those widgets. Like, I wouldn't move them in this case because the delta is so small, but I might be wrong to do that. Let's go and close both of these, and then like run this ping command. Oh, it's actually really fast. It's just because the debug log was open that it was giving me a problem. I just make like a UI based what is it? A super optimized UI based pressure washing game. What was it? Power wash simulator. But instead it's about painting thousands of UI elements and seeing what happens. Okay. We've got this really high input lag happening, and I'm not sure why. So if we hit play by default, I think we're looking okay. Maybe? Yeah, I mean, we're not sub 8 ms, so we are already less than 120. No, we're at 120. Okay, yeah, so now if I just keep painting them. Just making some Christmas decorations here. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Anyway, thanks for joining. I'm gonna go now. That's me done for curiosity killing the cat. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much.